Hello and welcome once again to this online session in the subject of signals and systems. In past few online sessions, we discussed classification of signals and we basically completed study of different classes of different classes of signals like continuous time, discrete time, continuous value, discrete value, periodic, aperiodic, deterministic and random signals, even and odd signals, absolutely summable and not absolutely summable signals, and in the last online session we discussed energy and power signals. In this session we would try to study some of the basic signals which we would use in the subject of signals and systems. These signals are called basic signals because they are very useful in analysis of signals, as well as we would see in the coming online sessions that these signals basically becomes a basic constituent of any arbitrary signal. This basic signals again has a characteristics that they represent different types of inputs. And hence, in many subjects, for example control theory, such signals are also known as standard test signal. Why? Because these signals we would see as we discussed through the online session that these signals basically represents different nature of input. So let us start the study of basic signals. And we would start with the elementary signal, what we call it as unit impulse signal. Unit impulse signal represents momentary input. What do we mean by a momentary input? Momentary input means that input exists only for a moment or a very short duration of time. The example of this can be a spike in a voltage signal. A sudden change in the value and then a value becomes normal. Generally what we call it as a voltage spike. So unit impulse signal basically represents those type of signals that are momentary in nature. It means that it exists for a very short period of time. Let us try to see how a unit impulse signal is defined in continuous time and discrete time domain. Let us start with its definition in continuous time domain. A unit impulse signal is represented as delta t. This is the standard notation. So wherever we are using the symbol of delta t, it implies that we are talking about an impulse signal. So how is this delta t defined? Then delta t is defined as the value of delta t is 0 for t not equal to 0 and it is infinite for t equal to 0. What does this mean? This means that if we try to show it in terms of a graph, then for all time t less than 0 or all time t greater than 0, the value of the signal is 0. That is, when t is not equal to 0, the value of a signal is 0. The value of a signal is non-zero only at t equal to 0. It means that only at the moment t equal to 0, the signal is non-zero. And what is the value of the signal? What is the magnitude of the signal? The magnitude of the signal is infinity. So how is unit impulse signal defined in continuous time domain? It is defined as delta t is equal to 0 for t not equal to 0 and delta t is equal to infinity for t equal to 0. This signal can be better understood if we understand this signal in terms of a unit area signal. You know, in the definition of delta t, if we are talking about the magnitude which is infinite, it certainly creates some ambiguity or doubt or confusion. So let us try to understand unit impulse signal in a different way. A unit impulse signal is defined as a signal whose area under the curve is unity. Now, how do we find area under a curve, or how do we find area under a function? Then we find area under the function by integrating it over the time axis. So, what do I mean here is that unit impulse signal is also typically defined as a function or a signal with unit area. That is, if I integrate this function over time, if I integrate delta t with respect to time, then integration of this is going to be equal to 1. Let us try to understand it by taking this graph into picture. Let us consider this nature of the signal. Let us consider this rectangular pulse kind of thing here. So what is this rectangular pulse? Say this rectangular pulse has value 0 here, it has value 0 here, it has a non-zero value only between these 2 points. Now let us say that this point is minus 0.5 and this point is plus 0.5. It means that the spread of the pulse is unity, 1. Now if I want the area under this curve to be equal to 1, understand what I am trying to say? Now I want the area under this curve to be equal to 1, then what should be the magnitude of this? It means that what should be this height? We understood that this point is minus 0.5, kindly follow my cursor. This point is minus 0.5, this point is 0.5, so the spread is 1. If I want the area to be equal to 1, then the magnitude should also be 1, because the area of a rectangle is length into breadth. So if this is 1, this is 1, then area would be 1. So when I say that area under the curve is 1, it means that if I consider the example of this rectangular pulse with minus 0.5 here and 0.5 here and a magnitude of 1, then the area under the curve is equal to 1. However, for unit impulse signal, what is the necessity? The necessity is that the signal exists for a very short period of time. It exists for a very short period of time. So now, rather than this period to be 1, let us try to shrink it on time axis. It means that let us try to compress it on time axis so that it exists for a shorter duration of time. However, what is the condition? The condition is that the area under the curve should be equal to 1. So, let us say that instead of minus 0.5 to 0.5, instead of minus 0.5 to 0.5, now let us consider this rectangular pulse. Consider this rectangular pulse. Consider that I have shrinked it, I have compressed it by half. So, now instead of a spread of 1, I have a spread of 0.5. That is, say this point is minus 0.25, this point is at plus 0.25, so my spread is 0.5. So this length now is 0.5. Now if I ask that what should be the height of this, then the height of this should be equal to 2. Why? Because the area has to be equal to 1. So if your breadth is equal to 0.5, then your height should be equal to 2. So 2 into 0.5 will give you 1. So the point that I am trying to insist here is that if you are trying to compress the signal in time axis, it means that you want the signal to exist for a shorter duration of time, the magnitude of the signal would increase. Understand? I repeat it again. If I try to compress the signal on time axis so that the signal exists for a very short period of time, then we realize that the magnitude of the signal would increase because the signal is defined to be a unit area signal. Now in general, if I say that I take a rectangular pulse whose width is epsilon. So let us consider this third rectangle. Let us consider this third rectangle. The width of this is epsilon. then what should be the height of this? The height of this should be 1 upon epsilon. Then only epsilon into 1 upon epsilon would give you 1. It means that it would give you unit area. Now, as per the definition, we say that impulse signal exists only for a moment. That is, it exists only at time t equal to 0, which is a single moment. It is not a duration, it is a single moment. So now if I say that if epsilon tends to 0, then naturally 1 upon epsilon would tend to infinity. And hence, in delta t, we say that the value of delta t is infinite at t equal to 0. Yes? So as I keep on shrinking the rectangular pulse, reducing its width, its height increases. And when I say that it exists only for a moment, that is, this epsilon tends to 0. So this epsilon, which is the width, is tending to 0. It is becoming smaller and smaller. So the height 1 upon epsilon keeps on increasing. And if you consider epsilon to be 0, the height would be infinite. And this is how we can understand the impulse signal. This is how we understand that delta t is equal to infinity at time t equal to 0. Yes, this signal is also many a times called as delta signal because of the nomenclature which is used, the symbol which is used to represent it. This is how a unit impulse signal is defined in continuous time domain. Let us try to see how is this defined in discrete time domain. The definition of unit impulse signal in discrete time domain is relatively simple. It is defined as delta n equal to 1 for n equal to 0 and delta n is equal to 0 for n not equal to 0. It means that the signal would have value 1 only at one sample which is n equal to 0. Otherwise, for all other samples, that is n not equal to 0, the value is 0. If you try to sketch it, it becomes very clear. At n equal to 0, the value is 1. Mind well, it is 1 and not infinity as it is in the case of continuous time. The value of delta n is equal to 1 at n equal to 0 and it is 0 otherwise. So in discrete time domain, delta n has a finite value at n equal to 0. Whereas in continuous time, delta t is defined as infinity at time t equal to 0. Fine. Having studied unit impulse signal, let us move on to the next basic signal that we are supposed to study, and that is unit step signal. Unit step signal basically represents a sudden change in the value of a signal. It means that the signal may have one value and suddenly the value is changing, and after that the new value remains constant. The example to understand this can be a switch. Suppose the switch is open. So what is the voltage that one gets across the device? Maybe 0 volts. And now the switch is closed. Now what is the voltage that the device gets? Once the switch is closed, the device gets the complete voltage. So initially the voltage was 0, and as soon as the switch was closed, the voltage changes to another value. And that value of voltage remains constant till the time the switch is not turned off again. So a unit step signal basically represents a sudden change in the input. Let us try to see unit step signal in continuous time domain. It is defined as u of t. Again, this is a standard notation which is used for unit step, ut. So it is ut is equal to 1 for t greater than or equal to 0, and it is 0 for t less than 0. So what does this mean? The value of a signal is 0 for t less than 0. So for t less than 0, it is 0. And for t equal to 0 and 1, the value is suddenly changing to 1 and then it is remaining constant. Because we are talking about unit step, unit means 1. Because we are talking about unit step, we show this magnitude as 1. That is, the change is of 1 unit. So this is a unit step signal. In discrete time domain, the signal is defined exactly in a similar way. U of n is equal to 1 for n greater than or equal to 0, and it is 0 for n less than 0. That is, for n less than 0, that is negative values of n, the value of the signal is 0, and for 0 and all positive values, the value of the signal is 1. In mind well, this is basically both this continuous as well as discrete time domain. Unit step signal is basically an infinite length signal. It means that this one continues up to t equal to infinity. This signal continues up to t equal to infinity. Yes? So they are basically infinite duration signals. Fine. The next basic signal that we would try to study after unit step signal is unit ramp signal. This signal has a characteristics that its value continuously changes, but it changes at a constant rate. That is, a unit ramp represents a signal that is changing at a constant rate. What do I mean by rate? What do I mean by rate is that the change in the value per unit time is constant. As if we are traveling at a constant speed. How do we define speed? We say kilometers per hour. Right? So if I say I have a constant speed, it means that I have fixed number of kilometers in fixed number of time. So constant rate means the change in the value with respect to time is constant. Let us try to see how this signal is defined in continuous time domain. The signal is defined as RT or R of t is equal to 0 for t less than 0, and it is equal to t for t greater than or equal to 0. So if we understand this, then for all negative values of t, the signal is 0. But for all positive values of t starting from 0, the value is t. So at time t equal to 0, what would be the value of R of t? It would be 0. At t equal to 1, what would be the value? It would be equal to 1. At t equal to 2, what would be the value? It would be 2. At t equal to 3, what would be the value? It would be 3, and so on. Yes? Because we say that when time changes by 1 unit, R of t also changes by 1 unit. That is the slope of this line. We call it as dy by dx. Here drt by dt. The slope of this line is 1, and hence it is called unit ramp. The word unit basically talks about that this ramp signal has a slope of 1. Yes? Similar way, we have the definition of unit ramp signal in discrete time domain. R of n is equal to n for n greater than or equal to 0, and it is 0 for n less than 0. So, for all negative values of n, the signal is 0. When n is equal to 0, the value is 0. When n equal to 1, the value is 1. When n equal to 2, the value is 2. When n equal to 3, the value is 3, and so on. Right? So this is basically how a unit ramp signal is defined in discrete time domain. We understand, it is not difficult to understand that a unit ramp signal can also be represented in terms of unit step signal in discrete time. And how can I represent it? It is equal to n into un. Now what is un? Let us go back to the previous slide. How do I define un? I define un as it is 1 for n greater than or equal to 0, and it is 0 for n less than 0. So, now if I try to put this definition here, un is equal to 1 for n greater than or equal to 0. So what is the value of R of n? If it is 1 for n greater than or equal to 0, this is 1 into n, so it will give you n. And what is the value of un for n less than 0? The value of un is 0, so 0 into n would give you 0. So R of n can also be expressed in terms of unit step signal as n un. Fine. So the third basic signal that we looked at is unit ramp signal. If you look at unit step signal as well as unit ramp signal, we have seen that the signals are said to have value 0 for time t less than 0, and it has some finite value for time t greater than or equal to 0. In general, such class of signals are called causal signals. This, you can understand it as one more type of signal or one more classification of signal as causal signals. This property or this are going to be very common with signals that we would use in signals and systems. It means that this nature of signal is going to be very common in our discussion throughout the subject. So what is a causal signal? A causal signal is one which is 0 for time t less than 0, and it is defined and non-zero only for t greater than or equal to 0. Such signals are called causal signals. That is, the signals that are defined only for t greater than or equal to 0 and it is 0 for t less than 0 are called causal signals. Say ramp here is an example of a causal signal. Unit step that we discussed was an example of a causal signal. Right? We will talk more about causal signals in coming sessions. Fine. The next basic signal that we would try to look at is a complex exponential signal. Let us try to see how this complex exponential signal is defined in continuous time and discrete time. The word itself indicates that the value of this signal is complex. Till now, whatever signals that we have discussed, maybe unit impulse or unit step or unit ramp, they all are basically real value signals. It means that the value of a signal is a real number. When I talk about a complex exponential signal, I mean that the value of the signal is going to be complex. Now what do I mean by a complex? You can understand it, there are a number of ways in which you can understand a complex number. One of the way is, which I understand it in a simple way, is a quantity which has magnitude as well as phase. Yes? So, a complex number can be understood as a number which has two information. One is in terms of magnitude, another is in terms of phase. So, in light of this, let us try to discuss complex exponential signal in continuous time domain. This signal is defined as x of t is equal to e raised to power j omega 0 t. Now, we are aware about the standard Euler's identity which we use in mathematics, particularly in complex numbers, that e raised to power j theta is cos theta plus j sin theta, and hence I can write this e raised to power j omega 0 t as cos omega 0 t plus j sin omega 0 t. So, if you see, x of t is basically a plus jb. It means that x of t has a real part which is nothing but cos omega t, and it has an imaginary part which is sin omega 0 t. Because x of t is a complex number, it makes sense to calculate magnitude of x of t. Then we know that if I have a complex number a plus jb, then the magnitude is under root of a square plus b square. So here the magnitude would be cos square omega 0 t plus sin square omega 0 t, which would be equal to 1. And if I try to calculate the phase of this, then we know that for a complex number a plus jb, the phase is defined as tan inverse of b by a. So here the magnitude of x of t is tan inverse of b, which is sin omega t upon cos omega t. Sin upon cos is 10, so this basically is tan omega 0 t. Tan inverse of tan omega 0 t would give you omega 0 t. Yes? Sine upon cos is 10 and tan inverse of 10 is theta. That is tan inverse of 10 theta is theta. So tan inverse of 10 omega 0 t would be equal to omega 0 t. So x of t is basically a signal whose magnitude is 1 and whose phase is omega 0 t. It is interesting to note here is that the magnitude is constant but the phase is changing with respect to time. It means that the phase is not constant. The angle at which we would try to plot this magnitude is changing with respect to time. What does this mean? This means that suppose that I try to draw this vector. No, we represent a plus jb in terms of vectors. A is your real part, so it is something which is on the real axis. jb is your imaginary part, so it is there on the y-axis. So this is a plus jb. Right? So now if I try to represent this in terms of a vector, then I understand that this is a vector whose magnitude is 1 and whose phase is omega 0 t. Now this phase is changing with respect to time. It simply means that this vector is not stationary but it is changing its position with time. I repeat again. When I say that the phase is changing with respect to time, what do I mean? I mean that this vector is not constant or this vector is not steady, but it changes its position with respect to time. Now if it is changing with respect to time, as the time increases, the phase is increasing, but the magnitude is 1, so this vector basically rotates around the origin. So we say that this is basically a rotating phasor. So at time t equal to 0, the position of this vector would be here. Maybe at some another time the position would be here and it keeps on rotating. So this is a rotating phasor. Because it is rotating around the origin, we can also say that the signal is periodic. Why? Because the signal is repeating itself at every 2 pi duration. The signal is repeating itself at every 2 pi phase. So signal starts from here, completes one rotation, again come to the same position and again repeats itself. So certainly this signal seems to be a periodic signal. If you try to find what would be the period of this signal, then this is summation of two signals. Both the signals are having same period. So I can find the period of this as 2 pi ft by comparing it with the standard form, that is 2 pi ft is equal to omega 0 t. In this case, my f would be equal to omega 0 by 2 pi, that is my time period would be equal to 2 pi by omega 0. So, a complex exponential signal in continuous time domain defined as x of t is equal to e raised to power j omega 0 t, we understand that this is a periodic signal whose period is 2 pi by omega 0. If you recollect, while discussing energy and power signal, we took an example of the signal and we realized that this signal is not an energy signal but a power signal. The reason is it's basically a periodic signal. I may also have an exponential signal which is of the nature of e raised to power minus j omega 0 t. Now compare two things. Here you have plus j omega 0 t, here you have minus j omega 0 t. So for e raised to power minus j omega 0 t, what would be the difference? I would have cos omega 0 t minus j sin omega 0 t. If I try to calculate magnitude of this would still be equal to 1, but phase would be minus omega 0 t. Now, by our normal convention of representing vectors on a graph, we say that anti-clockwise direction is considered to be the direction of measuring angle which are positive. So now if I say that my phase, that is my angle is negative, then I would move on in the clockwise direction. Right? This is not difficult to understand, you know. In a quadrant representation, if we call this point to be 0, we call this point to be 90. And we call this point to be minus 90. That is, if we are traveling in anti-clockwise direction, we consider angle to be positive, and if we travel in the clockwise direction, we consider angle to be negative. So now if my phase is negative, that is minus omega 0 t, it simply means that I am rotating in an I am rotating in a clockwise direction. Right? Many a times students get confused that J is positive, T is positive, then how come frequency can be negative? The concept of negative frequency basically can be understood from this rotating phasor, that this basically rotates in an opposite direction. So if e raised to power j omega 0 t rotates like this in an anti-clockwise direction, e raised to power minus j omega t rotates in clockwise direction, otherwise the property of both the signals is same. So this is complex exponential signal in continuous time domain. Let us try to see this signal in discrete time domain. In discrete time domain, I would define this signal x of n as x of n equal to e raised to power minus omega 0 n. Again, by Euler's identity, we can write it as cos omega 0 n plus j sin omega 0 n. The magnitude of this would be 1 and phase would be omega 0 n. However, if we talk about the periodicity of this, then it is interesting, and we should remind ourselves that all in discrete time domain, all sinusoidal signals may not be periodic. For a sinusoidal signal in discrete time domain to be periodic, we know that its frequency has to be ratio of two integers. Yes? Let us remind ourselves about this fact which we discussed in discussing periodic and aperiodic signal, that in discrete time domain, in continuous time domain, sinusoidal signals are always periodic because the period can be real number. But in discrete time domain, the signals are periodic only if the frequency of that sinusoidal signal is ratio of two integers. So let us try to find the frequency of this. The frequency of this would be 2 pi fn is equal to omega 0 n, that is f would be equal to omega 0 divided by 2 pi. Now this f has to be ratio of two integers, only then the signal would be periodic, otherwise it would not be periodic. It means that it would not have the same pattern of values repeating again and again. Yes, so we should be careful when we are dealing with discrete time complex exponential signal, particularly in terms of its periodicity. They may be periodic, they may not be periodic. However, this is not the case for continuous time complex exponential signal. Continuous time complex exponential signal would always be periodic. Fine. With this, we complete the discussion on basic signals so far as this online session is concerned. We would try to see some interesting relations between basic signals, and we would also try to see some common other signals which are used in the subject of signals and systems, but that we would do in the next session. So thank you for joining. Thank you very much.